Hi guys, today I'm going to talk a little bit about this new application that I've been working on over the past couple of weeks. It's a chess opening memorization app called Pawnfork, um, given that name because I found it vaguely amusing. Um, so I'm going to demonstrate this application to you now. So it's currently not packaged up as an executable file, which means I'm going to have to run it from the command line. But it's not working, which is a good start. I think, yeah, it's because I'm not in my virtual environment. So okay, great. So now I have successfully opened the application, which is always a good start. This is it. It is not the best looking thing in the world. It's obviously very simple. I wasn't trying to make it visually stunning, which is fortunate because it definitely isn't. But it's functional, I think. So on the homepage, it says at the moment you have no decks. Create a new deck. Okay, so let's create a new deck. Actually, I should probably tell you what a deck is. So a deck is a collection of flashcards, and each flashcard basically consists of a chess position, and your job is to figure out the best move that you can play in that position according to the Stockfish chess engine. And yeah, so there's four different parameters that we need to configure when we're creating a deck: the opening, the player color, turn depth, and response depth. I'm going to talk a little bit about what each of these parameters mean. So opening is basically the position from which all flashcard positions in a deck arise. So for example, we have some built-in openings, and this is actually one I added earlier. But for example, the Sicilian defense, which in chess is e4, c5. If I click this, it means that when the deck is created, every single chess position that I see on flashcards in this deck will be a position that arises further down the line from the Sicilian defence. So e4, c5 will have already been played in that chess position. Player colour is kind of self-explanatory. You choose either white or black, and that basically determines the perspective from which you see the chessboard. So it might be that you want to learn how to defend against the Rory Lopez opening, which is quite common opening seen in chess where the bishop comes out and attacks the knight. So it might be that you want to learn how to defend this because it's something that always stumps you when it's being played. Or you might want to attack the Sicilian defence. So you might select white and Sicilian defence. All sorts of different things you can do. Turn depth, basically, that determines how many moves ahead in the future flashcards will be generated for. So when I say moves, I'm talking about moves from the opponent. So if you typed in 2, that would basically mean that you're talking about studying the position 2 moves into the future. So obviously the number of possible variations kind of rises exponentially the more moves you add. So for example, if this was like 10 and this was also 10, and I click create here, it's saying that up to however, I don't know what this number is, maybe flashcards may be created, and this is going to take a long time because every flashcard that's created, we're needing to query the Stockfish API and basically figure out what the best move is in that position, which is actually computationally inexpensive. So we're going to cancel that, obviously. I should probably mention what response depth is as well. So response depth is basically saying for each turn that your opponent will be taking, how many possible responses do we want to consider. So for example, if we selected 1, that would basically mean that for the next 10 turns, we only want to look at the opponent playing the optimal move. So that would only actually mean 10 different flashcards because that's just the way it works out mathematically. But it's obviously not particularly helpful because an opponent's extremely likely to deviate from playing the optimal line, unless of course they are an avid user of Pawnfork. So a more realistic scenario might be a turn depth of, say, I don't know, 3, and a response depth of 3 as well. So we click create now. That gives us a far more reasonable estimate of 13 flashcards that may be created, and it says this could take up to 1 minute. So what we're basically saying here is we want to learn how to attack the Sicilian defence as the white pieces. We want to look 3 moves into the future, and we want to consider 3 possible opponent responses per opponent move. Create, and you can see in the background on the terminal it's saying the number of flashcards that have been generated so far. It doesn't actually update the user interface, which is something that I probably need to add. If you saw it, but it basically just says the word creating. So it does give you an estimate of the amount of time it takes, so it's better than nothing. Anyway, now we're back on the home page, and instead of saying you have no decks, it says click a deck to study, and we can actually see the deck that we've just created, which is the Sicilian defence, colour white, turn depth 3, response depth 3, and size, which is the number of flashcards in the deck, which, as we thought it would be, is 13. So this is where it gets interesting. I say interesting. If we click on the Sicilian defence, we're now going to be studying this, and it's basically presenting us with a flashcard from the deck. And as I mentioned before, flashcard basically consists of a chess position and an optimal move, and your job is to basically find the optimal move in that position. So let's say your opponent played knight to d7. It's the best move. What is the? I don't actually know the answer to this because I am not that good at chess. But let's just move this pawn forward. So you can see it's like a drag and drop interface, and when I drop this pawn, it's telling me that that is incorrect, and the best move is actually c3, which that's a shame. So I'm going to click next flashcard now. So it's going to present another random position that basically arises from the Sicilian defence as the white pieces. So this is actually interesting because this is, this is the Sicilian defence that you're seeing. This is e4 that white's played and black's responded with c5, and this is the most common opening in chess. So which move is the best move to play? I don't know. Let's see if you can work it out. I don't know. I should probably know this. I'm going to move this knight. It is not right. The other knight needed to move. Anyway, as you can see, all the flashcards that I'm studying here, they have this common feature. The common feature is that the e4 and c5 have been played as part of the position, and the idea is that I'm going to learn to recognise common patterns in the Sicilian defence, and it's going to become muscle memory to respond to these patterns, and hopefully that's going to improve my opening skills and mean that I'm less likely to come out of the opening with a bad position, which has been known to happen. So I think arguably people could say it was kind of contrary to the spirit of chess. You're basically just memorising a bunch of different positions in the opening. Where's the skill in that? And the answer is obviously that there is no skill really. It's just rote memorisation, which is a little bit sad, of course. But the reality of chess is that this is what a lot of people do in the openings. They do memorise positions, and whether that's through away from playing games, but I guess the most common approach would just be to play that position in many games, and over time learn which moves work and which ones don't. But obviously you can bypass all of that and study the process much more efficiently by using an application such as this. And chess positions in the opening, they are so complex that it is very difficult to actually work out what the best move is a lot of the time. And if your opponent is better prepared than you, then you are highly likely to come out of the opening with a worse position and spend the rest of the game playing catch up. So the idea behind this is not to destroy all of your opponents in the opening. The idea is to basically get through the opening with a good position, to not have any sort of strategic disadvantage, and then to actually get into what I consider to be the fun part of chess, which is the middle game, where the tactics become a little bit more clarified. And yeah, so you've seen so far that I've basically created a deck from a pre-configured opening, the Sicilian defence, which is something that I'd already loaded into the database before I started this video. But you don't actually have to do that. You can create your own custom opening, which is a really cool feature of this application. So here, when you go to create new deck, you can see this create new opening button. So I'm going to click this. It takes you to a screen that's very similar to the one we were just on when we were studying. But this time, I'm just going to make some moves. I think this is called the bomb cloud, where the king just moves forward. So it's obviously not a recommended move. I'm going to call it the bomb cloud. I don't know if it's like one word or two, but let's just save that. And when we go to select pre-configured opening, we can see our new opening there, the bomb cloud. I'm going to select white, actually black, because I think we selected white last time, so let's vary up a little bit. Turn depth can be, let's just say 1 and 1. So that's going to be a single flash card. It's not actually going to take a minute, that would be very sad, but confirm. Okay, so here we go. This is a new deck that we've created, and this was created from that custom opening. So now when we click this, we should see the king in his awkward position, and there he is. So as black, what's the best way to respond to the king immediately marching forward down the board and presumably try to attack all of your pieces? It's very brave from the king. I don't know what the best position is. Maybe this one. Okay, no, I'm not very good, am I? Knight f6. So, ta-da! Correct. You found the best move. Okay, because we've only got one flash card in this deck, every time I click a new flash card, it's obviously presenting me with the exact same one. So this isn't obviously a very worthwhile exercise, just playing knight f6 again and again and again. So obviously you want your deck to be more than one flash card in size. But that basically gives you an idea of how you can actually create a custom opening as opposed to using one of the pre-configured ones. The last feature I want to show you is the ability to delete decks. It's not a very exciting feature, but I think it's an important one because you don't want your interface to be clogged up with loads of decks that you're not using. So when you click this little red button on a deck, it will just delete the deck instantly. This is because I haven't programmed any sort of confirmation window. It just felt like it wasn't really necessary at this point, especially because your deck doesn't really contain any information that you can't easily replicate. You know, if I accidentally deleted the deck, it wouldn't be very difficult to recreate that. So I'm going to click delete, and I'm going to click delete on Bonclaw, which is very sad because, you know, that was obviously a very useful deck. And now it says you have no decks again, and it's asking me to create a new deck, so we're back to the beginning. But this time when we create a new deck, we can see, there we go, the Bonclaw opening is there. So that was a short introduction to the Pawnfork application. So one of the things you might have noticed is when I'm studying flashcards, the flashcards that appear are effectively randomly selected from the pool of flashcards in the deck, which meant that, you know, if you have a deck of 3,000 flashcards, then it's just completely random. Obviously, what you're seeing, you could see the same one 2 times in a row, and obviously that's not the best. That's not exactly the optimal system for learning. I don't know if you've heard of a system called spaced repetition, but that's something that I've used before via programs such as Anki to learn, such as Tour de France winners, or the heights of the mountains, all this important stuff. Spaced repetition was something that, when I originally conceived of this application, that I thought I would program in as kind of one of the core components. But yeah, that's not to say that I don't think it's important. I just haven't done it yet. If you think it's important, then let me know. Or if you have any other suggestions about how this application could be improved, or if you're just interested to find out more, then let me know as well, because I'd be really interested to hear any feedback that you might have. Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, and you can download this application if you go to my website, wjrm500.com. I'm going to be packaging this up into an executable file do it on my website, and you'll be able to download this and use this to your heart's content, which I'm sure you'll be delighted about. All right, thanks very much for listening. I'm going to leave you now.